Rachel's wedding photos are still all over Instagram. There she is in that $12,000 dress, beaming at the camera while I stand beside her in seafoam green, holding her bouquet like the dutiful best friend I'd been for 23 years. Nobody looking at those pictures would guess that 6 hours before they were taken, I was in the hotel bathroom with her husband, doing things that would destroy every single smile captured that day. I keep scrolling through them on my phone, sitting in my empty apartment in Denver, boxes still unpacked from my rushed move. In every photo, I look like the perfect maid of honor, fixing her veil, holding her train, raising a champagne toast to true love. The comments underneath make me sick now. Such a beautiful friendship. Lucky to have a friend like you. Maid of honor goals. If they only knew that while they were typing those words, I was already 3 months into an affair with the groom. The wedding was 8 weeks ago. The friendship is over. The affair is over. My life in Nashville, where we all lived, is over. And I'm sitting here trying to figure out how I became the kind of woman who sleeps with her best friend's husband and then stands next to her at the altar pretending everything is perfect. It started with tequila shots on a Thursday night. Isn't that pathetic? The great betrayal of my life began with Jose Cuervo and bad decisions at a dive bar in East Nashville. Rachel had to work late. Some crisis at the PR firm that couldn't wait until morning. "You two go ahead," she'd texted. "Keep Brett out of trouble." Brett and I had hung out plenty of times without Rachel. He'd been part of our friend group since college, dated Rachel for 6 years before they got engaged. We were all friends. That's what made everything worse. This wasn't some stranger. This was Brett, who helped me move apartments 3 times. Brett, who picked me up from the airport at 2 a.m. when my flight got delayed. Brett, who I'd watched fall in love with my best friend freshman year and thought, she deserves someone who looks at her like that. But that night was different. Maybe it was the tequila. Maybe it was the fact that I'd just been dumped via text by another mediocre guy who couldn't commit. Maybe it was turning 32 and watching everyone else hit milestones while I collected bridesmaid dresses. Whatever it was, when Brett said, "You know you're the only one who really gets me," something shifted. "Rachel gets you," I'd replied, but even as I said it, I knew we were entering dangerous territory. "Rachel loves me," he corrected. "That's different from understanding me." I should have shut it down right there, should have laughed it off, changed the subject, called an Uber. Instead, I ordered another round. We talked until the bar closed. Really talked, not the surface-level group chat conversation we usually had. He told me about his dad's expectations, how he felt like he was sleepwalking through his consulting job, how sometimes he woke up at 3 a.m. terrified he was making all the wrong choices. I told him about my mom's passive-aggressive comments about my eggs dying, my boss who kept passing me over for promotions, how I felt like I was watching my life through a window instead of living it. "We're both stuck," he said as we stood outside waiting for our rides. "You're getting married in 4 months?" I pointed out. "That's not stuck. That's committed." He looked at me for a long moment. "Is it?" I should have told Rachel about that conversation. Should have warned her that her fiancé was having doubts. That's what a best friend would do. Instead, I went home and replayed every word, every look, every moment his knee touched mine under the bar. I told myself I was being ridiculous. Brett was practically my brother. These were drunk thoughts that would evaporate in the morning. They didn't evaporate. They crystallized into something harder and sharper every time I saw him. Suddenly, I noticed things I'd ignored for years. How his eyes were this impossible shade of green. How he bit his lower lip when he was thinking. How his laugh started low in his chest. How he always saved me the last slice of pizza without being asked. Rachel noticed nothing. She was deep in wedding planning mode, consumed by centerpieces and seating charts. "Thank God I have you," she'd say, spreading fabric swatches across my coffee table. "You're the only one who tells me the truth. Like, is this blush or champagne? And don't lie to make me feel better." I'd help her pick between indistinguishable shades of pale pink while thinking about how her fiancé's hands had looked wrapped around his whiskey glass, wondering what they'd feel like on my skin. I was the worst friend in the world, and she trusted me completely. The second time Brett and I went out alone, it wasn't an accident. Rachel had a bachelorette party for some work friend. Brett texted asking if I wanted to grab dinner. "Nothing fancy," he wrote. "Just don't feel like eating alone." We went to a hole-in-the-wall Thai place where they knew his order by heart. Sat in a corner booth meant for dates, not friends. Every time our fingers brushed reaching for the spring rolls, electricity shot through me. We split 2 bottles of wine and talked about everything except the thing that hung between us like a loaded gun. "I should get you home," he said when the check came. "I'm a grown woman. I can get myself home." "I know you can. I want to make sure you do." We shared an Uber, his apartment first, then mine. Sat on opposite sides of the back seat like teenagers afraid to get caught. When we got to his building, he hesitated. "Anna," he started. "Don't," I said. "Whatever you're about to say, just don't." He got out without another word. I went home and took a cold shower, trying to wash off the feeling of wanting something I couldn't have, shouldn't have, my best friend's fiancé. The thought made me hate myself, but not enough to stop. Rachel asked me to go wedding dress shopping the next week. "Just the 2 of us," she said, "like old times." We'd been best friends since freshman year of college. Assigned roommates who actually liked each other, a minor miracle. She was there for every heartbreak, every triumph, every questionable hair decision. We had matching tattoos, inside jokes in 3 languages, a 5-year plan to buy houses next door to each other. She was my person, and I was hers. Standing in that bridal salon, watching her twirl in a dress that cost more than my car, I felt like a monster. She was radiant, glowing with happiness and trust and love. And all I could think about was whether Brett would think she looked beautiful in it, whether he'd picture her walking down the aisle toward him, or if his mind would be somewhere else, with someone else. "What do you think?" she asked, catching my eye in the mirror. "Tell me the truth." "You look perfect," I said, and meant it. She did look perfect. Perfect for Brett. Perfect for the life they'd planned. Perfect in every way I wasn't. "I love you," she said, squeezing my hand. "I don't know what I'd do without you." "You'll never have to find out," I lied. The physical part started 3 weeks later. Another night when Rachel was working late. Another text from Brett. But this time, instead of meeting at a bar, he asked me to come to his apartment. "Just to talk," he said. We both knew he was lying. I wore my best underwear. The lacy set I'd bought for a date that never happened. Told myself I was being stupid, that nothing would happen, that I was just going to talk to my friend about his pre-wedding jitters. Put on perfume, the expensive kind, just in case. He answered the door in sweatpants and a t-shirt, looking like every lazy Sunday I'd watched him and Rachel spend together. For a moment, I almost turned around. Almost remembered who I was supposed to be. Then he stepped aside to let me in, and his hand brushed my lower back, and I was lost. We didn't even make it to the bedroom the first time. Right there on his couch, the same couch where I'd watched movies with him and Rachel 100 times, where she'd painted his toenails black on a dare, where they'd told me they were engaged while I pretended my tears were purely happy ones. Afterward, lying there in the wreckage of our friendship, Brett traced patterns on my bare shoulder. "I've wanted to do that since the night at the bar," he admitted. "Which bar?" I asked, though I knew exactly which one he meant. "Every bar, every night, for longer than I should admit." I wanted to ask how long. Wanted to know if this thing between us had been building while I stood beside Rachel at cake tastings and venue tours. But I was afraid of the answer, afraid it would make everything better or worse, and I didn't know which would be harder to live with. "She can never know," I said. "I know." "I'm serious, Brett. This would kill her." He was quiet for so long I thought he'd fallen asleep. Then, What if I don't want to marry her? I sat up, suddenly cold. You don't mean that. Don't I? I'm lying here with her best friend 3 months before my wedding. What kind of man does that make me? The kind who's scared, I said, though I wanted him to be the kind who chose me instead. We set rules that we broke immediately. It would only happen once. Then it became only until the wedding. We wouldn't text about it. Then we were sending messages in code like teenagers. We wouldn't let it affect our friendship with Rachel. Then we were sneaking around like criminals, creating elaborate lies about where we were, who we were with, why we both happened to be unreachable at the same time. The guilt was constant, a weight that pressed on my chest every time Rachel called. She'd gush about wedding plans, about their honeymoon to Greece, about the house they were buying in Franklin. I'd make appropriate noises while Brett's bite marks throbbed under my collar, while messages from him burned on my phone screen, while I counted the days until I'd lose them both. Because I knew that's how it would end. There was no version of this story where Brett left Rachel for me and we lived happily ever after. No world where she forgave us and wished us well. No timeline where everyone stayed friends. I was burning down 23 years of friendship for a man who couldn't even say he loved me. But I couldn't stop. Every time I tried to end it, Brett would look at me with those impossible green eyes and say something like, "You're the only real thing in my life right now." And I'd fall back into his bed, telling myself that if I was going to hell, I might as well enjoy the ride. Rachel asked me to help with wedding favors one afternoon. We sat at her kitchen table, tying little bags of Jordan almonds with ribbon the exact shade of her bridesmaids' dresses. Brett was at his bachelor party in Vegas, probably drunk and surrounded by strippers, and I was torturing myself wondering if he was thinking about me. "I need to tell you something," Rachel said, and my heart stopped. This was it. She knew. Someone had seen us. We'd been caught. "I'm pregnant," she whispered, eyes shining. 8 weeks. I haven't even told Brett yet. I wanted you to be the first to know. The ribbon slipped from my numb fingers. Pregnant? I know the timing's not ideal with the wedding and everything, but we're so happy. Or we will be once I tell him. You don't think he'll freak out, do you? I stretched my lips into a smile that felt like it might crack my face. My arms moved to hug her like foreign objects, stiff and wrong, while my mind screamed, said all the right things about what a wonderful father he'd be, each word tasting like poison, helped her plan how to surprise him with the news, all while knowing that 12 hours ago he'd been inside me, whispering that he wished things were different, that in another life we could be together. "You'll be the godmother, obviously," Rachel said. "I can't imagine anyone else." That night, I threw up until there was nothing left, sat on my bathroom floor and finally understood what I'd done. It wasn't just Rachel I was betraying. It was the future they'd built, the child they'd made, the life that was already growing inside her while I played at being the other woman. I ended it with Brett the next day. Met him at a Starbucks where we couldn't make a scene, told him about the pregnancy, watched his face cycle through emotions I couldn't decode. "This doesn't change how I feel about you," he said. "It changes everything," I corrected. "You're going to be a father. Rachel's having your baby, and I'm done being the worst friend in the world." He tried to argue, to convince me we could find a way. But I was already gone, already turning the lock on a door inside myself he would never open again. The wedding was in 6 weeks. I just had to make it through 6 more weeks of pretending, and then I could disappear, move to another city, start over somewhere where nobody knew what kind of person I really was. Those 6 weeks were the longest of my life. I threw myself into maid of honor duties with a fervor that probably looked like devotion, but was really desperation. Planned the perfect bridal shower. Organized the bachelorette party in Miami where I smiled until my face hurt and drank until I couldn't feel anything. Gave a speech at the rehearsal dinner about true love and soulmates while Brett stared at me from across the room. The night before the wedding, Rachel stayed in my hotel room. "One last sleepover before I'm a married woman," she said, painting her nails the same shade of pink we'd worn to our first sorority formal. We drank champagne and looked through old photos on her phone. Every picture was a knife. There we were at graduation, arms around each other, ready to take on the world. At her parents' anniversary party. At my birthday dinner last year, Brett on my other side, all of us laughing at something I couldn't remember. Evidence of a life I'd destroyed for reasons I couldn't justify. "I have to tell you something," Rachel said as we lay in the dark, champagne making her honest. "I know things have been weird between us lately." My heart hammered. "What do you mean?" "You've seemed distant, different, and I think I know why." She rolled over to face me. "You're lonely. Watching everyone couple up, have babies, hit all these milestones, it must be so hard." A wave of sickening relief washed over me, so strong it almost buckled my knees, followed instantly by a fresh, hot spike of guilt. "Rachel—" "No, let me finish. I want you to know that you're going to find someone amazing, someone who deserves you, and until then you'll always have me and Brett. We're your family." I bit my tongue until I tasted blood, trying not to cry. She was comforting me for being single while I'd been sleeping with her fiancé. The irony was so cruel I almost laughed. "Promise me something," she continued. "Promise me that no matter what happens, we'll always be best friends, that we'll be in each other's lives forever." "I promise," I whispered. Another lie added to the pile. The morning of the wedding, I helped Rachel into her dress. Zipped up $12,000 of silk and lace while she chattered about their honeymoon plans. Fixed her lipstick, adjusted her veil, handed her the bouquet of peonies and roses that probably cost more than my rent. Did everything a maid of honor should do while dying inside. Brett found me before the ceremony. I was in the bridal suite bathroom, surrounded by curling irons and perfume bottles, trying to pull myself together, when he slipped in and locked the door behind him. "We need to talk," he said. "Get out, someone will see you." "I can't do this." For one crazy moment, I thought he meant the wedding, thought he was going to call it off, choose me, blow up everyone's life in spectacular fashion. Then I saw his face and knew better. "I can't lose you," he clarified. "Even if we can't be together, I need you in my life. We'll figure it out. Make it work somehow." "She's pregnant, Brett." "I know." "Then you know this is over. Whatever this was, it's done." He kissed me then. One last time in that bathroom that smelled like hairspray and roses, while 200 guests waited outside and Rachel practiced her vows one more time. Kissed me like he was trying to memorize the taste, like he could somehow make this moment last forever. "I love you," he said against my mouth. The first time. The only time. 3 hours before he promised to love Rachel forever. I pushed him away, fixed my lipstick in the mirror, walked out of that bathroom and into my role as the perfect maid of honor, and gave the performance of my lifetime. The ceremony was beautiful. Rachel glowed in a way that had nothing to do with the professional makeup. Brett's eyes only left her once, finding me for just a moment during the ring exchange. I kept my smile steady, my eyes dry, my hands still as I held her bouquet. During the reception, I gave a toast that brought people to tears, told stories about our friendship, about how Brett had always been the only man good enough for my best friend, how they gave everyone hope that true love existed. Hugged them both, posed for 1,000 pictures, danced with groomsmen, and pretended to have fun while my heart shattered in my chest. The last time I saw Rachel happy was when they cut the cake. She smooshed a piece in Brett's face, laughing when frosting got on his nose. He retaliated gently, dotting her cheek with sweetness before kissing it off. They looked perfect together. They looked in love. They looked like everything I'd helped destroy. The truth didn't come out in a dramatic confrontation or a passionate confession. It came out on a phone bill. Of all the mundane, pathetic ways to detonate a life, it was a line item on a family plan. Brett's phone bill, to be exact. Rachel was switching their accounts to save money and saw the thousands of texts between us. Confronted him. He broke immediately, confessing everything in what she later told me was the ugliest conversation of her life. She called me at 2 a.m, sobbing so hard I couldn't understand her at first. When the words finally came through, they were worse than any nightmare. "How could you?" she kept asking. "How could you do this to me?" I didn't have an answer. There was no explanation that would make it better, no words that would heal what I'd broken. So I just listened to her cry, to her rage, to her call me every name I deserved and some I didn't, let her burn through 23 years of friendship in a single phone call. "I gave you everything," she said toward the end, voice raw from screaming. "You were my sister, my person. How long?" 4 months, I admitted. 4 months? My entire engagement. While I was planning my wedding, you were fucking my husband. Rachel? No, you don't get to say my name. You don't get to say anything. I want you gone. Out of my life. Out of Nashville. I don't care where you go, but if I ever see you again, I'll kill you. And that's not a threat. That's a promise. From someone who used to love you. She hung up. Blocked my number. Had divorce papers filed within a week. I did what she asked. Quit my job. Broke my lease. Packed everything I owned and drove to Denver, where I knew no one and no one knew me. Started over in a city where I could be anonymous, where I wouldn't run into mutual friends at coffee shops, where I could pretend to be someone who hadn't destroyed the best friendship she'd ever had. Brett tried to call a few times. Left voicemails about how sorry he was, how he'd ruined everything, how he still loved me. I deleted them without listening all the way through. He'd made his choice when he stood at that altar. Everything else was just noise. I check Rachel's Instagram sometimes, even though it hurts. She made it private, but forgot to block my old work account. Her bio still says Nashville native, dog mom, tequila enthusiast. No mention of marriage. No pictures of Brett. Just her and her golden retriever, living a life I'm no longer part of. The wedding photos are still there, though. Our matching tattoos visible in one where we're getting ready. The speech where I'm wiping away fake tears. The two of us on the dance floor, spinning in our complimentary dresses, looking like the best friends we'd been since we were 18. I've started therapy. My therapist wants to unpack my childhood, explore my relationships, examine my self-esteem issues. She asks probing questions about my father, my mother, my early friendships. But I know the truth is simpler and uglier than anything in her psychology textbooks. It isn't some puzzle that needs solving. I wanted something that wasn't mine, and I was selfish enough to take it. No trauma, no deeper meaning. Just a fundamental character flaw that cost me everything. That's the whole story. Sometimes I dream about that night at the bar, the first night Brett and I really talked. In the dreams, I make different choices. Call Rachel to pick us up. Tell her about his doubts. Create distance instead of leaning in. Wake up still her best friend. Still invited to Sunday dinners. Still the person she'd call first with good news. But then morning comes, and I'm alone in Denver with a new phone number she'll never call. And memories of a friendship I torched for a man who chose her anyway. The baby would be due soon. Rachel always wanted a fall baby. Said they'd have the best birthdays. I wonder if it's a boy or a girl. If they'll have Brett's green eyes or Rachel's dimples. If they stayed together for the pregnancy or if she's doing it alone. If she's scared. If she wishes she could call me. But mostly I wonder if she ever thinks about me at all or if I've been erased completely. Just another cautionary tale about trusting the wrong person with everything. The best friend who became the other woman. The maid of honor who helped destroy the marriage she'd toasted to. I'm drinking wine alone on a Friday night when my phone buzzes with an unknown Nashville number. For one crazy moment, I think it might be her. Ready to talk. To scream. To do anything other than this silence that feels like death. But it's just Brett. She left me, his text says. Moved back to her parents' house. Won't let me see her. I lost everything. I stared at his words on the screen, a ghost from a life I'd set on fire. My thumbs hovered for a long moment before typing the only truth left. So did I. Then I block his number too. Because this isn't a love story where the obstacles finally clear and we end up together. This is a tragedy where everyone loses, where the wreckage can't be rebuilt into something better, where sometimes you break things so badly that all you can do is live with the pieces. The maid of honor who caught the bouquet and lost everything else. That's who I am now. That's who I'll always be. The woman in seafoam green, smiling in the photos while holding the secret that would destroy it all.